Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of We Watch Shudder. My name is JD. Who's here with me?
It's Michelle.
Happy birthday to you. It's
Ah.
Michelle's birthday, everybody. Happy birthday,
Thanks.
Michelle.
Thank you.
Thank you
My
for...
age is a multiple of prime numbers, and I'm mad about it. And I get to be mad about it for another 364 days.
Well, thank you for making time on this, the most auspicious of occasions, to still come around and record the new episode of We Watch Shudder.
Oh, you know me. I'm usually just partying so hard on a Thursday night.
Oh, yeah,
So,
definitely. Just
had to put a pause to it.
can't put any brakes on this machine. We going hard for the rest of our... No, we're not. We're really not.
We're old. We're too old for
We've
that.
managed to release a podcast consecutively for 15 weeks without really much trouble at all. We're definitely not riding it till the
No.
wheels fall off.
Yeah, I'm not going to become more of a party fiend as
Absolutely
I
not.
age.
So, as you know, here on We Watch Shudder, that's what we do. We watch movies, horror movies on the Shudder streaming service. They put out a lot of original and exclusive content, and that's what we talk about here. They got pretty much a new film coming out every week. This week, we're talking about a film by the name of Revealer. Directed by Luke Boyce, starring Kato Ase, Shayna Shruten, Bishop Stevens. If those names are not familiar to you, we'll talk about that. I'm going to give you the big description right directly from the Shudder website, as we usually do, and boy, it's a quickie. Tensions rise when a stripper and religious protester are trapped together in a peep show booth and must come together to survive the apocalypse in 1980s Chicago. A Shudder original. Now, before we go any further, I would like to point out that if by some random happenstance of chance somebody at Shudder is listening to We Watch Shudder, there's no apostrophe in 1980s. 1980S. No apostrophe, Shudder. Come on. Who typed
Well, it does
this?
say 1980s Chicago, so maybe 1980s, like the era, owns Chicago.
No, it's not.
And it is a singular 1980.
Right, but the
One 1980 owns Chicago.
No,
It's
but the
possessed.
movie happens in 1987, though.
Well, this is the I got nothing. No, that's wrong.
Fix it, Shudder. Come on. Grammar
I was trying
police.
so hard to advocate for them in case they were listening, and they're like, "Wow, we should sponsor these people." What? They're making fun of our apostrophe. I was like, "I'll help."
Yeah, I figured 14, 15 weeks in was a good time to really kick in with the grammar police on these. I just happened to notice it as I was reading it. It was totally, I don't even know why I became so. Anyway, Revealer is the film. Michelle, like we do, hit us with some of your spoiler-free thoughts on Revealer.
Absolutely. Okay, so first off, we have to ignore the first 1 or 2 minutes of this movie. The prologue makes no sense. I don't think it's fair to even discuss it in the spoiler-free section, but if you base your reaction to this movie on the first minute or two, you will be disappointed because I hit play, I watched that, and I went, and I had such low expectations, but I feel like they did that because then we had lower expectations, and then the rest of the movie could be awesome in comparison. And that worked for me. I really, really, really liked this movie, and it was a great gift from Shudder. And I am happy that I got to watch it, and I love the 2 characters. And we will keep it spoiler-free for now, but I will give it a 4.25. I was pleasantly surprised.
4.25 skulls for Revealer from Michelle. First of all, I have to absolutely agree with you. I still don't have any real... I mean, I get in context of the rest of the movie ultimately what that first scene means, but it's completely unnecessary. And so just, ignore that. I don't disagree with you entirely. I like the story here. I like the characters here. I like a lot of the ideas here. But I feel like there are 2 very important people who had a very important job to do on this film. And while everybody else was really trying to be their A game, those 2 people really kind of duffed it up. And those two people would be the people who wrote the script, not the story. Story by Luke Boyce, the fellow who directed the film. The script itself, I felt like I appreciate the ideas and the themes and the concepts here, but like I felt like some of the dialogue was so forced and hokey. I didn't buy into a lot of it at any point. I have some theories on that, but so like I'm really torn about this movie, and because I'm so torn on it, I figured the right way to go is right directly down the center. If it's a 5-skull scale, I'm going to go split right down the middle, 2.5 skulls.
Okay. And I think that's fair. And I agree with you on a lot of the dialogue, which is why the first half hour, it was like a 5, except for that first minute or two. And
Sure.
it does have some problems.
Oh, and
so we can get into that in the spoiler
there are
section.
definitely some great moments. I will point out right away here before we get into the spoiler section. I guess what would have been the poster if this needed now it's just promotional image, but man, that promotional image says this movie should be for JD. It's got an attractive lady not wearing a whole lot of clothing. There's a creepy face in the background, and there's some tentacles going on there. I was definitely on board to see what this one was about. That's for sure. If attractive ladies who are scantily clad and creepy faces and tentacles are your sort of thing, man, you maybe at least check this one out. All right, guys.
That list of interests should be on your Tinder profile.
Right. That's what do you mean should be?
Scantily clad women. Okay.
Wait,
Gotcha. You're already ahead of it.
Are you telling me you've never seen my Tinder profile?
I would have to be on Tinder, and
so
I don't
would
think my monogamous husband would enjoy that.
Oh. All right, guys. So if you want to go check out the film now before we get into the spoilers section, this is where you're going to want to do that. Hit that pause button. All right. So now we're going to talk about Revealer in a little bit more detail. Michelle, I'm going to let you go first here. Tell us what you really enjoyed about this film.
Okay. So first off, it's part comedy, and I think that's why I forgive so many things that I found wrong with it, where I was like a little bit hokey, but it was also like kind of funny. So I did give it leniency with a lot of things that if this was straight horror, I would not have, because when it did bring me out of the moment, it was just kind of like, that might have been for humor. For example, the tentacle going into her mouth where she's a stripper, is that a deep throat reference? Like, it's kind of hokey. It's just kind of like
a dick metaphor. Of course it is.
It's a little dumb to the point where even in a comedy horror, okay, it still didn't really work. But I think because it is a comedy horror, I did give it a lot leniency. But I also found a lot of things that I thought were kind of symbolic, and at first I wasn't sure if they were deliberate, and after some time I was pretty sure that this does get deliberately symbolic.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and at first I wasn't sure if maybe I was just reading into it too much, but definitely the feet part in the tunnels where she gives her shoes and then she holds her feet, and that's like a Jesus blessing thing, and so that came from the Christian lady, and I was like, okay, this is a thing that you are deliberately doing. I know 100% that there is a lot of symbolism in here that was deliberate.
Definitely.
And so I love that. And I also I was thinking it right when the lady said it about how this woman has been protesting outside for months or however long it's been, and she's been saying how she's going to save her, and then she won't even do like simple shit to actually physically save her. When she has the opportunity, she won't put in like even an iota of effort. And when I was thinking that, she said it, and so there was just a lot of stuff in this movie where when I felt annoyed by the televangelist woman, the main stripper character would voice my concerns at the same time I thought them. So I just felt very in sync with her, and I think that's why it did so well in my eyes. There was some dialogue that I felt was very cheesy. The whole friend bit at the very end, I literally rolled my eyes.
Yeah.
But there was so much that I forgave about it, and I thought it was very interesting, and I was hooked the whole time except for the first minute or two, because what the fuck was that?
Yeah, for sure. It's obviously, just sort of a a totally non-related introduction to the character of the demon here that we meet later on in the movie. Ass mode ass. As
Ass mode ass.
that I won't deny the fact that at least the first time it came up, ass mode ass got a big chuckle out of me. I thought that was super super funny. Yeah, so I do appreciate a lot of the ideas here. It's obviously got a lot of things to say about like objectification and sexualization of women. And religious persecution and a lot of those very broad themes here. I also thought it was kind of a neat element of really sort of even amplifying that idea by setting this movie in 1987, because then it's also like wait, these are the ideas that we're literally still talking about today.
I
you
didn't
know,
even realize
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Oh,
It's like,
no.
it's
Yeah.
set in 1987, so it's like there's that added layer of, oh, we've literally been trying to figure this out for basically ever. So again,
Yep.
like from a thematic and an idea standpoint, I really enjoyed a lot of what they try. I appreciate the ambition of this movie. But I did go and look into some things behind the scenes after I watched it. And so here's what I've discovered. Luke Boyce, the fellow who directed it, he's done a couple of other smaller projects, but this is basically his first feature-length film. The two fellas, and Luke Boyce is also credited as the story writer with screenplay by a fella named Michael Moreci and Tim Seeley. Those two fellas, as I understand it, are comic book writers who then also put some work into developing this story into a screenplay for the film, and it's their first time, as far as I can tell, or one of their first times writing for the screen. All of the major performers in the film, again, have all had small bit parts and things, but this is basically their first time doing something on this scale and in a lead performance. And I think the movie really just kind of reflects maybe a little bit of ambition outpacing ability. Here, I really appreciate what they wanted to do. I didn't entirely buy the acting at every point. I feel like there were some moments where it really, I just lost my ability to suspend disbelief. When I found out that the two fellas who wrote the script itself were comic book writers, so much more about the just. Like, again, I knew it was going to be kind of comedic going in, but that also helped explain for me the really overly hokey element. And there's also a lot of down space in this movie. Like, it's not really dense dialogue. It's very short, very basic. It felt like once I understood it was written by comic book guys, I was like, oh yeah, this very much feels like comic book dialogue. I don't know. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I can absolutely see that, which I did not know until you
Right,
just said
yeah,
that.
yeah, and that's why, like,
And it does explain
I'm
it.
not gonna
Yeah.
lie, I as soon as the movie was done, I came in, I was fully prepared to even be a little bit more harsh on it than I was, but I'm glad I took the time to look into it further, because yeah, that's kind of where I've settled on, is I feel like it's overall, it's just a movie whose ambition outpaced its current ability. I think there were some interesting ideas at play here, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing more from these people. Luke Boyce already has another movie in production called Revival. I don't know anything about it. It looks like it's still pretty much in the early stages, but I'll be interested to see that movie when it comes out. Good effort, just not quite there yet.
Is part of your criticism of this movie the lack of visuals while all of this stuff is going on outside?
No, not so much. I tell you this much, as so far as what's going on outside, I guess to me the biggest part about that bothered me is it just the fact that this story of the Asmodeus demon chasing them down and that whole angle, the idea that that's happening just happens to be concurrently happening with apparently the biblical apocalypse. I was just like, okay, why? Like, are they related somehow? Is there a reason they're both happening at the same time? If you're not going to really incorporate any of what's happening outside there other than just as context of the movie, I felt like it was totally unnecessary. And then at the very end, they do that thing that so many movies do. We saw it with The Sadness earlier this year, where they do the big pullback to reveal something more epically horrifying than you would have expected. But again, like, I felt like the end just didn't make sense. Like, are they supposed to just like, oh, they've just been in hell already this whole time? Like, I didn't even understand it. And so no, I just felt like that whole element of the story was just completely unnecessary.
Interesting. And maybe it's because I am ignorant to the rapture and like I've heard of like the trumpets,
Oh,
but
sure.
I did not know much about it. So her doing the countdown of like that is the first one and this just happened was so foreboding to me that I loved it. And then when they said that Asmodeus was coming for them, I thought that was just like a thing that happens in rapture stories, so I just accepted it.
Sure. Okay. That I can see how that
Hmm.
might have worked, but yeah, for me, and I think the way I would say it is more a matter of I wish it had been one or the other. I wish it had been the
Okay.
Asmodeus story or the Apocalypse story. I feel like the two of them together just like it felt like they were just shoehorned together to add more context to the story. And so that whole thing didn't quite work for me as a combination. Also, here's something I just noticed that I never realized until literally just now. That's what it means when you say I just noticed. I don't know why I felt the need to
Yep.
explain that. On
Well,
that,
you did.
on that, I sure did. On that cool poster image that I was talking about, it's got the creepy face in the background, which is the religious person in the film, and she wears glasses. And there is a silhouette of the demon's head and shoulders reflected in her glasses.
Uh, I'm glad you mentioned glasses because at one point she loses her glasses
Uh huh.
and then it's just fine. If I lost my glasses and I knew I could never see an optometrist again, I would just lay down and let them take me. There's no way I can't
Oh
see
yeah,
anything. I
yeah,
would just give up.
yeah.
I can't believe that's a thing that just happens in movies where
Right,
characters are like, "Oh, my glasses broke. I guess I'll go on functioning." I'm like, "How?
right.
I can't see anything." If I didn't have my contacts in right now, I would not be able to read the paper that I have my
Oh yeah,
notes on. I would
my
I would have no idea how to
my
give up.
my prescription the last time I got new glasses, I believe in one eye I rate 2160 and in the other 2180. And in case you didn't know, legally technically blind is 2200. So yeah, the idea like if I take my glasses off, I can't see a fucking thing. Like I can make out
Hmm.
fuzzy shapes and colors, and that's it. So
Yeah.
yeah, anytime that happens, I'm just like, why were you even wearing your glasses the whole time? If you're not desperately searching for your glasses the instant you lose them, you didn't need them in the first place.
I have one friend who only one friend, no other friends. This is my singular friend. I have one friend. I'm bragging about it right now. This singular
And
friend who is my
side note,
only
by the
friend.
way, it's
Yeah.
not me.
It's not you. No, we are mortal enemies. My only friend in this whole world. She wears glasses, and sometimes when she's performing, she just takes them off, and then she goes and does her performance and goes on backstage. I'm like, how? That is
How?
such a hazard.
Oh
It just
God.
that was something I made a note of because when she lost her glasses, I went, that is the most unbelievable thing happening in this entire movie.
Oh
How are
yeah.
you functioning?
Yeah, it's
But
just
it just
bizarre.
bothers me so much when that happens.
Yeah.
And I had to mention it.
I do also, and in a little bit more support of the ambition outpacing ability narrative that I've constructed here for this film. I also felt that when the demon did finally appear, he looked an awful lot like a Buffy the Vampire Slayer demon circa 1999. But like so again, I and that it was hokey enough that it took me out of it, right? And it's like I get it.
Hmm.
Budgets are limited. That's
Yep.
a thing that's going to happen. But So yeah, again, I think it's definitely one that you probably if you're into horror comedy and you like weird apocalyptic things, it's probably at least worth spending some time with. You might enjoy it a little bit more than I did. Clearly, Michelle had a good time with it, and nothing against it other than I look forward to seeing what else these people can do.
Yeah. I have a question for you.
Please
So
ask
there
it.
is okay, I will. So there is a specific thing that I see when I am watching smaller horror movies that I don't see as often in big budget movies of any kind or even other indie pictures. And I think it is because of the special effects and the things that they have to put into horror that they don't with drama or like a standard comedy, where that first 2 minutes of this movie really hit it, where it's like, okay, overacting, not great. Like, I think it was a wig, it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't great makeup or hair. The effects are weird, like it's oversaturated. There's just a lot going on, and it immediately tells me what kind of horror movie I'm about to watch. That little indie low budget thing. Is there a word specifically for that?
Like just that look that indie movies have that just says, "Hey, we're super indie."
Yeah, and it is specifically with horror because when I watched this, I immediately thought of what was the very first one we did about the Nazis? The game, the Bunker
The
Game.
Bunker Game.
Um, the Bunker Game had the exact same thing, and it is only a thing I see with small indie horror movies,
I'm
and there needs to be a word for it.
I'm not gonna lie to you right now. I'm not
Uh-huh.
even certain I know what you're saying.
Okay, well, you know what?
I mean,
My one
don't get me
singular
wrong.
friend who
I
can
can
take off her glasses,
no,
it
I
will
can
she'll
I can
understand.
definitely like I understand the idea of like you can just kind of tell by looking at something that there's it's like okay, this is kind of the budgetary range we were aiming at here about, but I
Yes.
don't know necessarily if I've never heard anybody say that there's a word for that. Like it looks cheap. That's not the nice way to say it, but I guess I wouldn't. I'm not sure at all, Michelle. Maybe you can coin a
Okay.
term for it and become famous.
I should because see, Host was another small indie movie with very minimal resources, and yet that did not fall into the horror indie low budget category that some of these movies do. And I need a word for it because I can go, oh, I know what kind of horror I'm watching.
All
And
right.
this was
Well,
not a big
this is
budget.
your opportunity, Michelle. You got to start. Here's what you got to do. You got to
God
turn it
dang.
into a whole thing. Know what you because the only way you're gonna be allowed to successfully coin a term that then enters the lexicon is you're gonna have to
Hmm.
write some sort of academic paper about a concept, right? And then come
Well, I
up with
do
a
know a
name
friend
for it.
who's in writing, so
Right. So now
she's my singular friend.
here's what you got to do. You got to start taking notes on
Hmm.
the specific incidents and start analyzing them and figure out sort of categorize and codify the phenomenon of which you are speaking, and then you just
Hmm.
get to come up with a name for it. Maybe we call it the roller effect. I don't know.
Ooh.
Any.
But that implies that I'm cheap, which I am.
Well, I mean, that was kind of the joke. Thank you for explaining it
Yep.
to everybody. That's fabulous, but whatever.
That's the kind of so if I had a word for these types of movies, that kind of dialogue where they over explain it would be considered part of this category. So
Absolutely.
I'm gonna figure out a term. I'm gonna start documenting. You're gonna see me with just like folders everywhere I go from now on, just full of these movie scenes where I'm like, this specifically nails
Look
it.
for
I
Michelle's treatise on the indie effect coming soon.
Ooh, the indie effect. I like that because I bought so many movies from Walmart bins that were like, I paid $5 for this piece of trash,
You sure did,
and there's a word
and
for it, and
they
I'm
won't
gonna
even
figure it
take it
out.
back.
No, they won't. They're like, I'm like, I will pay you money to get this out of my house, please.
Alright.
I have a lot of really bad horror movies, and they're not even like fun horror. They're just
I'm pretty sure that at this point you could just throw them away.
But then I'd feel bad. What if the creators found out someday?
Well, that's a discussion for our mental health podcast. You'll have to check that
Yeah.
out some other time. Oh,
We
well,
watch our mental health
yes,
decline.
we do. So, Michelle, that was Revealer
Yeah.
for this week. What's coming up next
Uh-huh.
week? Do you remember?
I can tell you in one
I can find
second.
it faster, I bet. It's
Okay,
a
I
race.
believe
It's
you.
a race. Let's see who
Wait,
can get there.
I'm not even looking in the right spot.
No, you're
Nope, I
definitely
am completely
not. It
lost.
is The Long Night. The
Yes.
Long Night. What is The Long Night about?
Hey,
I don't know,
hey,
guys. Hey,
JD,
what?
JD, I found it. It's Long Night.
Oh, it's
You're
The
welcome.
Long Night. Cool.
Yep,
Awesome. Uh,
yep, you're welcome.
yeah, and you know what? Should we tell everybody about the thing that we're doing, do you think?
Are we allowed to? We're not going to get in trouble for announcing the
Here's
thing
what
we're
we'll
doing, are
do.
we?
Here's what I'm gonna do, just to wrap things up here. If you haven't been paying attention to the Facebook page, first of all, shame on you. Pay attention to the Facebook page. That's why we have it. But if you haven't been paying attention,
Comment on the things there.
right?
But
Please
only if they're nice.
develop some activity for us. That helps. Anyway,
Yeah.
you know how social media works at this point. But we have a big, cool, fun thing that we're going to be doing coming up in August in association with an event going on here locally in Fargo. I don't even want to give too much away other than that, and especially until the folks tell us that, because I think maybe they want to make the announcement first. But keep
Yep.
your ears and eyes peeled. Big announcement of a fun thing that We Watch Shudder is going to be doing coming up in August here in Fargo. Yeah, so other than that, Michelle, you got anything else we need to talk about? I'm just kind of babbling at this point.
I think the phrase eyes and ears peeled is weird because peeling your eyes makes sense. You're getting rid of your lid so you can see better. What do you peel from your ear to improve your hearing?
You don't want to know.
Okay, good. Okay, then I will not ask any further questions. Thank you
Wait,
for
wait.
letting me know that I do not want
Wait,
to know.
you mean this odd gack that I have to routinely remove from my ears on a semi-daily basis is not something everyone deals with?
Oh,
It's
that's good
got
to
it's
know.
got a weird iridescent glow to it, kind of like the back of a beetle. I don't understand. There's something happening in my ears. Ah!
You need to go see a doctor.
No, I was just
Okay.
doing my impression of how the dialogue felt in Revealer.
Oh, you revealed too much about yourself.
Ah. Say goodnight, Michelle.
Good night, Michelle.